We are here at the Missouri Botanical Garden in a Japanese garden where we're going to take you on a little tour today of all the new things that have bloomed since we were last here. It is a chilly but sunny day today, so we're excited for this walk, warm up a little bit and show you what's going on. I'm here with Cassidy. He's standing beneath a Kanzan cherry. If you tuned in a few weeks ago, you might have seen our Yoshino cherries or the weeping cherries. This is a later blooming variety, and let's get up close and show you what it looks like. So these blossoms are really big. Very, very beautiful. And we'll see some more of these as we keep walking. Last week Cassidy and I were noticing how much greener everything has gotten just in the past few days. With all that sun and warm weather last week and a little bit of rain, there's a lot of leaves showing up and the grass is just looking so much more lush even than it did 5 to 10 days ago. Here we have a dogwood tree. Looks like this is just starting to open up, or are these just smaller blossoms than most?
They're just not fully open yet.
Okay. Yeah, but you can see they have this very distinct center and those sort of notches in the petals there. So that's how you can tell a dogwood flower.
And actually the flower part is that center, and these petals are modified leaves called bracts. And so the actual flower part is that center.
So these are just kind of starting, and I've seen a few starting around the neighborhood too, for those of you who are trying to still get outside and enjoy nature in your neighborhood. You can keep your eye out for these. Here we've got a white dogwood variety. But you can see it still has that distinct center and those sort of notches in the petals there. Gonna cross the stream here. And at the top of these stairs you can see that really bright color there. That is one of our azaleas. We're starting to see some color on these. They're not quite at their peak yet. But look how good they look when they're not even at peak. You can see a lot of these aren't quite opened up yet, but a lot of them are.
talked about this on one of our other tours, but for people that are spring allergy sufferers, these are catkins of a river birch. So this is their flowering structure, and it's wind pollinated, so the wind comes through and blows the pollen out of these long dangly structures, and that's what's causing all that irritation in people's noses right now. If you have tree pollen allergies, is all this wind pollinated trees are releasing their pollen, and a lot of them have structures like that, and they're just kind of fun. Catkins.
Here on our right, there's a lot of color still with some later cherries, this redbud up here, that kind of magenta one, some of the Japanese maples leafing out. And I always like to mention that if you do live in the neighborhood, for the time being while we're closed, you can see a lot of this stuff from the other side of the fence if you're walking along Alfred. There's even a couple that hang over the fence that you can smell. Those deep red leaves that you're seeing, those are the Japanese maples. Now we'll look back at those dogwoods that we were just showing you up close a few minutes ago, and just take a moment to take this all in.
This is just another type of dogwood here. I think it might be a Kusa dogwood. I'm not 100% sure, but there are some Asian varieties of dogwoods that the garden has. I just happened to spot this one. You can see what Kristina was mentioning earlier, that cluster in the center and the distinctness of the petals or bracts here. And so lots of different types of dogwoods are blooming right now, and we'll see if we spot any more on our walk.
Skies are so blue here today. It's really nice after a kind of gloomy weekend. So, in case you couldn't hear Cassidy, those are peonies back there. Those dark flowers that are coming. There's just a couple of them. He'll point them out.
See if I can sort of tilt forward over the azaleas there.
Yeah, we can see that. That looks great.
And you can see big buds on some of the other ones along here. So those will be, at least these peonies anyway, should be blooming pretty soon.
Here on our left are some more of those Kanzan cherries. And I'll pause on these again. For anyone who tuned in a couple minutes late, these are later blooming cherry blossom variety. Here's some more azaleas. And you can see there again on this bush, it's the same thing where some of those flowers are open and others aren't quite there yet. So we're definitely keeping our eyes on these. Now this tree is super fragrant. It smells beautiful under here, so floral. Kind of like a jasmine type scent.
I was looking for the tab. I think these are hawthorns. Crabapples.
So these trees that we're standing under are crabapples. Well, that's interesting. You can see some of these have got pink on them, the ones that aren't opened up yet.
This is a really cool view right here. I don't know if we can
Oh yeah.
point the camera upward, but you can just see those sort of branches that are rising out above the rest of the tree.
Very cool. Looks sort of Dr. Seuss-like. Hi. Should we go take a look at this tree up here?
Yeah, and this is one of those spots we've talked about on a few tours where if you're out for a walk in the neighborhood where you can actually kind of get a glimpse into the garden. So this is at the corner of Magnolia and Alfred. And we have a couple of interesting trees here. Which I think is a crabapples. And this is actually a cherry over here. This is a bird cherry, and so this actually, unlike some of the flowering cherries that we featured previously that have sort of small bitter fruits, these actually will make nice big tasty fruits. I think they're yellow maybe.
I've seen yellow cherries before.
Yeah, as the name suggests, the birds get to most of these before staff has a chance. And actually something we can kind of see here, since we're up here, across the street in Tower Grove Park, you can see this collection of white redbuds. Here we featured some of those on garden grounds on a previous tour. But just to show you that there are some spots when you're kind of out and about on a walk where you can get a little peek in at the garden, even if it's through the fence.
And of course, we always encourage you to get outside and learn about nature, even if it's not on garden grounds for the time being. We actually have a new app called Search for Spring. You can find that on our Facebook page or on our blog, and it describes over 80 different species that are native to St. Louis during the springtime. And you can use that app to sort of turn your walk into a scavenger hunt or a learning opportunity if you've got kids at home that you're trying to keep entertained right now. That Search for Spring app is a great option.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here. We can maybe show them.
Oh yeah, Cassidy has that app pulled up while we're walking around.
So it has different insects and pollinators, flowers, flowering trees. I was actually looking for, there we go, we've seen azaleas on our tour today, so we just mark that as found, and you can go through and see all the plants that you found out on your walk. And there's even a place to submit photos as well, so you can kind of help us build that out for other people to see the spring that you're capturing on your own.
And it looks like Daria, who works in our home gardening center, just posted a link to that for anyone who's interested. And I should mention it is free and you don't have to download anything. It's a web app, runs through your browser. It's a great educational resource if you're looking for something to do.
Just kind of neat. I've always liked this little tree. If we can sneak over here, you'll see we have the red redbud and then a white redbud right next to each other, and they're in full flower with their little flowers growing off the trunk. And I think this is actually the same tree, just with one side of it has the white grafted on, and the other side is the more traditional redbud. And this is just a cool tree at the back of the Japanese garden with a really nice view out across the lake and of the drum bridge and everything from here. So thought I'd stop and point that out.
Here again is another azalea. You can see that most of those flowers are still closed for now. But once these all open up, it's going to be brilliant.
Kristina, point this out really quickly. One of the first tours that we did, we were talking about these weeping cherries, and you can actually see now the cherries themselves, the fruit are forming. The flowers are long since done for, but that's the little fruit right there, green and immature, and in another few weeks or so will ripen, but again won't be particularly tasty to people, just the birds.
Let's stop and see if there's any koi out today. It's pretty cold, but with the sun, you might see some. I see some that are probably too far for you to see on the screen, but they seem to be making their way toward us. Slowly but surely. I don't know if you can see the forms of the shapes of the fish under the water there, but they're not coming very close to us. You can kind of see here and here and right here.
I know if my daughter Cecily were here, we would have come armed with quarters, and I think that would have attracted them over to us.
Mm-hmm.
Next time. We'll remember quarters next time.
What kind of tree is this with these big bunches of blooms?
These are going to be viburnum.
These are viburnums.
Super fragrant. In fact, the common name on this is fragrant snowball. So
That's a very, very accurate description.
It is incredibly. It's super florally fragrant. I'll get the botanical name of this wrong, but it's Viburnum carlcephalum.
Yeah, these smell very sweet, almost like some kind of candy, cotton candy or something.
You can even see.
Oh yeah.
These are the. If you have been with us for all the tours that we've been doing, one of the things that we featured on I think our very first tour were these peonies, and they were maybe just a few inches out of the ground at that point, and here we are now 3 weeks to a month in, and you can see there's buds on the top of these with a little bit of color on the edges there. Still a little too early for them to bloom, but you can just see how much they've grown out in the past month or so.
So this is a flowering Japanese maple.
Yeah, it's called a full moon maple, and it's just the leaves are coming out and give you that nice green, and then the flowers are this really bright red, and so it's sort of a really pretty contrast between the two. And you can see this tree is just covered in all these clusters of flowers.
Here's another redbud, like those ones that we were showing you from afar that are in Tower Grove Park, the white redbuds. Why don't we go up on the viewing arbor and see what we can see. All this color is so great. So you can see these younger trees here with those reddish brown leaves. If you saw any of our tours from a couple weeks ago when the cherries were just starting to bloom, these are those thundercloud cherries that we showed you. Now all their petals are gone, but they still have this really lovely colored leaf. So they look good all year round, one way or another. Let's go down to the water and see if we can see the turtles without scaring them away. I don't know if you can see them sunning themselves on that ledge there. Right there. Oh, looks like I got too close to a nest. Let's leave these geese alone. They're not used to seeing people around here lately. Listen to them go. Sorry, guys. Ooh, they got excited. I think there's a nest down there. Yeah.
Did you scare the turtles?
No, the turtles are still out. I just scared the geese.
We did actually ask, we had somebody ask us on Facebook if we could get a picture of the turtles all lined up on the rocks. They say they come here every spring and get a shot of the turtles lined up. So I'll have to come back with my camera and see if I can't get a new picture for them this year.
And beware of the goose nest, because she was hiding down there. I just heard a hiss all of a sudden.
Somewhere in my mom's photo books, there's a picture of me in the Japanese garden when I was about 12, getting chased off by a goose. And I still remember that, and they terrify me to this day. I won't say it again.
Yeah, when you see their tongue come out, you know it's serious business.
And I thought we'd go this way to show something else that's coming along. It's not in full bloom yet, but we have this really pretty Wisteria that blooms right over the lake. And you can start to see some color on it. Over here, this sort of bluish purple color. And 2 years ago it was absolutely gorgeous. Last year it didn't really flower at all. So it looks like this year we're set up to have a nice bloom. I'll probably check in with Greg Cadis, who's one of the horticulturists who works here in the Japanese garden and takes really good care of the wisteria here, and check with him and see if he thinks he can kind of pinpoint when peak bloom might be for this, and we'll make sure we come back and show it to you when it's in full bloom.
coming up on the English woodland garden here, and we will turn in there and see what's started blooming or growing since we last checked in there. It's been a couple weeks now, I think, since we showed you the English woodland garden, and everything changes so fast this time of year.
The English woodland collection has a lot of the viburnums that we were talking about earlier, so we should see some of that, some viburnum, some azaleas and rhododendrons, lots of dogwood and redbud.
These are viburnums, correct?
Yes.
Yes. I see that sign now.
I feel like I can always smell these plants before I see them. But they're big and they have big showy blooms too. So
You still got a lot of bluebells, and these have been blooming for a couple weeks now. Let's get close on those and show them. You have this really nice color.
and lots of the celandine poppy as well through here.
And the celandine poppy, which is
Yes.
that yellow one.
Yes. And something else we can show you, this one, I'll try not to step in the bed. Maybe we can find one that's a little closer to the path. What I'm going to show you when we find another one that's a little bit closer to the path are trilliums or wood lilies. So that's something else that's blooming right now. Here's some right here we can take a look at. So they have these distinctive 3 leaves, usually variegated, and then that's the flower coming up there in the center. And actually this is a genus that one of our researchers actually described a new plant in 2019 in the Trillium genus. So we have not only this great collection that's in bloom right now, but we have botanists that are doing research on this family and making new discoveries.
You can see some azaleas throughout here too. Back here, that pink that you see. Oh, and here we have another wood lily. These might be a little easier to see on camera since the color is a little more distinct from the leaves on this plant. Let's see here. Here's another one.
I'm going to say the botanical name wrong. Trillium flexipus, maybe? But lots of different varieties of this wood lily that are coming up right now in English woodland garden.
And this field, we talked about a few weeks ago, a lot of crocuses come up here in late winter or early spring. And those are long gone now, but you can see it's just covered in violets. It's beautiful.
I think the yellow are little daffodils, I believe.
Some kind of wild daffodil. Maybe. Now here, this is where I think we first pointed out the azaleas a few weeks ago, and you can see, again, though those flowers aren't open, you can see that color on them. We're seeing a lot of daffodils here along the path. That's what these white flowers are that you're seeing. We'll close up on one. And we're still quite a distance away, but you can see that white patch that you're seeing ahead is those white redbuds that we mentioned earlier. And that pink behind them is the regular redbuds, the red redbuds, if you will. You can see those from a mile away. And I don't think we've showed you these particular trees since their buds have opened up. So. And you can see how they grow straight off the branches of the tree like this. It's called cauliflorus when that happens.
People that have tuned in are probably wondering, but what about the tulips? So we have some tulips right over here that we can show you.
And tulips definitely are one of the things that's in peak bloom right now. Cassidy put together some aerial shots last week that features the tulips pretty prominently. And that's on our Facebook page if you want to scroll down and check that out after this video. And you can also find it on YouTube, which is the case with all of our videos. We do move them to YouTube once they're recorded, so if you have someone you'd like to share with who might not have a Facebook, you can do that. Oh look, there's Daria now. She's the one who's answering some questions for you guys on the feed, if you can see her. Now, here's what is the star right now. Those tulips we were talking about. And I did want to mention while we're here in front of the Kemper Home Gardening Center that it is National Gardening Day, and it's a great time to get out in your garden. And if you have any questions, while most of our staff is not here, we are still available via email. You can always send a message to plantinformation@mobot.org if you've got any questions while you're working in your yard. All right, and with that, we'll sign off by saying Happy National Gardening Day. And we will be back with more tours, probably later this week, weather permitting, but certainly they will continue to happen regularly. So stay tuned in and stay healthy, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.